Use the code CHICKEN in the shop.
Hey guys, the Chicken is here. We are back today with another Boom Beach video. In today's video, guys, I thought what would be a helpful video would be to go over what you need to do to make the top 500. Now, I've done this 8 times now, so I feel like I have a pretty good idea. I've definitely learned a lot over the last, I don't know. I learn something new every season, and I always try to put that into videos for you guys going into the next seasons coming up. So we're going to play a little bit of the main base here, and I'm just going to kind of talk about some of these really important general strategies, ideas, procedures that everybody that is either making a run at or is in the top 500 really has to do at some point over the course of the season. So I think what we'll do, let's do for attacking. Let's do the old heavy cryo and Dr. Kavan. So my first point is you have to have an idea. You have to have a predefined path going into the season. Now, of course, this is going to be subject to change, but you have to. The point is, you have to plan this stuff in advance. You can't ever, you cannot ever just simply jump into the season. I mean, can it work sometimes? Of course. There's always, anomalies, outliers, blah, blah, blah. But you can't ever just jump into the season blind and be like, I want to unlock this because I like using it. I used to play like it. I used to play it like that sometimes, and I always had a bad time. Or sometimes you get lucky and you hit, you hit the right combo of troops and of whatever you're unlocking and stuff. But for the most part, that's a pretty bad strategy. So you want to have an idea of what's going to be good, whether that's based on your thought process or what other people are using. You just have to have some kind of idea of where you're going to go and what that's going to look like, and base that on some sort of past experience of it actually being true in warships, or you're sitting back a little bit on day one letting other people figure that out for you. So a predefined plan is always very, very important. From there, you want to be able to make your tech tree path. So obviously you want to plan out your first couple days, but it's really important to see what's coming later in the tech tree. This is something that we harped on all season last season. It was like, yes, heavies are going to be great on day one. They're going to be fantastic. Great unlock. But to get them, you also have to get smokes and medics and a bunch of other stuff. Does that make sense for the end of the season? It turned out no. It was not the correct choice. So what we did instead was we took it a little bit of a slower approach. There's sometimes where you have to double down and you have to, go all in on certain areas just to survive, because staying in a specific rank of either gold, diamond, or, maybe even legendary, probably not legendary, by that point you're already done, but, you know what I mean. Barring those specific times where you have to make choices just to stay alive, for the most part, you want to be looking down the road in warships. You want to be looking at when are the heavy choppers coming, when is Kavan coming, when are bombardiers coming, when is artillery and barrage coming, those kinds of things. The things that we know are always amazing, and yeah. So that was definitely something that was really a focus for us last season, and something I'm going to put into my tech tree planning for the foreseeable future. So the next thing is be willing to adapt. Our first 2 points were having a path, having a long-term plan for the season, but you also have to be willing to adapt. Sometimes stuff just pops up that you may not have known that was going to be good, and it might happen quite frequently. So say for example, I don't know. Say, for example, people are unlocking something and it turns out to be really good and it's not really that far off the path. Things like that happen all the time in warships, and, it's a judgment call again, like we just said, you've got to make that play. But I mean, sometimes things come up where it just makes sense, and you have to be willing to adapt, and you have to be in tune with the community. You have to really know what other people are doing. I mean, yeah, you can get by just by watching replays, but you really need to be plugged into somewhere, whether that's YouTube or, one of the social medias, Discord, Reddit, whatever your preference. You got to be tuned in somewhere, and that's going to allow you to know a little bit beforehand. That's what I always try to do with my daily videos. Let you guys know a little bit beforehand what's working, what's not working, And it's just a good way of being able to, follow along other people's progressions and then kind of know in advance what's going to work or what's not going to work. The next thing is you got to change your base all the time, even when you don't want to. Changing your base is a chore. I get it. I get it out of everybody. I don't like doing it. I really wish they could add some kind of feature or whatever that would allow you to change your base with a little bit less time. But it is what it is, right? So you have to change your base frequently. I personally know of somebody that on their last push day of season 34, they changed their base 15 times at 70R. 15 times in one day to get that legendary spot. Now, legendary is not necessarily top 500. That guy was, pushing pretty hard. But just an example, you got to change your base all the time because even if you're doing okay, you can typically do better with a new base. A lot of Warships comes down to base design, especially at the end of the season when most people have either similar or the exact same tech level. What really makes those changes or those push points are really made by the base. Sometimes it happened to me last season too. I wasn't winning on the very last day that ended up being my big push into legendary, and it was simply because my base was wrong for the time. I changed up, I don't know, not 15, but at least 3 times till I found one that was consistent, and then away we went. And then from that point, it's just, following the attack meta, following all the other stuff that we always do, getting the attack down to science, knowing what other bases that we're going up against, and, just kind of really fine-tuning it from there. But you're not going to be able to get to that point if you don't have the right base, and sometimes it's simply a trial and error thing, and it's frustrating and it's time-consuming. But if you want to be competitive, then that's what you have to do. The next point kind of goes off of that one, where you really have to have that willingness to grind. Now, this may, I don't know, it depends, right? It depends. Because you have to have that willingness to grind, but you also have to have the ability to know when your push points are. And usually the push points are pretty obvious. I mean, people will say, like, I got this, and this, like, it's fairly obvious when the push points are, right? It's when, when you're unlocking mechs on the way to getting barrage. It's probably not, mechs probably aren't going to be the push point, right? It's probably going to be when you get that barrage. That's when you want to, get something new, get something that's good. And that's when you want to put your time in. So the point of this is saying, say you unlock something good and you've got a good base, you got all your boxes ticked, right? It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win 5 in a row. You might lose 5 in a row. That's just how the game works. So you have to have that willingness to just put in the time. It's like, okay, I know my tech is good. I know my base is good. I'm just going to put in the work and play for an hour and then see overall where that gets me. Because sometimes that's what it takes, right? It's not always magical win streak days. Sometimes it's just simply, you're at a 55% win percentage and you play 200 battles. That's what it really comes down to. Some days, not all the time. Not all the time. I don't want to make it seem like, making the top 500 is some unbelievably hard achievement, because it's not. It's just, I think these are some things that if you're not doing, then they'll definitely help you on your journey to getting more of those golden cups, because that's what it's really all about, right? And I think that's the most fun part of Warships too, is when you can get some of these trophies and get close to legendary or whatever. It's so satisfying. Like, I had so much fun last season when everything just kind of came together, and I struggled with Warships for a long time. I did, and it was a lot of learning, and it was a lot of trial and error, and a lot of just going through the motions. And we're on we've been on a good push the last few seasons, and that's because all this stuff that I'm sharing with you guys has really worked. And then every season we get a little bit more tech, So same thing, right? All right, so willingness to grind. Yeah, the next point kind of ties down willingness to grind. I'm not going to harp on that too much. Sometimes you have to sacrifice time and or sleep, or both. Now, this is especially true at the beginning of the season. If you want to do really well, I would say it's almost imperative that you wake up at 4 a.m. or whenever the season starts at your time. Where did all my trips go? To make sure that you are getting, as much as you can out of your start date, because the longer you wait to collect your chests and to start in Warships, the harder it's going to be the rest of the season. So, I mean, that's really something that's important. I can't believe it fizzled out on that one. I wasn't watching at all. Does he have ice statues? Not really. Yeah. So you got to sacrifice sleep at some points. Now, I typically do it at the beginning of the season. I don't necessarily do it always at the end of the season unless I have to. So yeah, something to take into consideration. And finally, you have to, I know a lot of this stuff sounded like not very fun. And doing anything competitively at a high level is typically not enjoyable because we're not playing for fun. There's a lot more ways that you could play the game and really enjoy it. But the thing is, you got to learn to enjoy the process, right? You've got to, take the good with the bad and just know that, like, some days when you're struggling to collect chests and you're going to rank 21 or you're going to rank 16 and then falling out right before you get the chest, you've got to just take that with a grain of salt and understand the process. And then really come to a point where you can just simply enjoy it, where it's like, okay, I know this is going to happen. I know why this is happening. And, just kind of go from there. So these are a lot of things that I've been working on myself, obviously. Not getting frustrated at the wrong times. Not, thinking, oh, no, my season's over, that kind of thing. And I think it can help you guys out. So any Warship vets out there watching this, make sure to let me know down below in the comments some of your best tips and tricks for, trying to do your best wherever that is throughout the season. And, just knowing when to push, when not to push, and that kind of thing. But, yeah, I hope that video helps you out. I think we're going to fist on the sked, so let's get out. Let's get off the main base. Season 35, come on down. We're ready and waiting for you. I'm bored now. But, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. We'll catch you next one. Chicken out. Back.